We are inspired by you. Thank you for joining our Creative Mamas community. Please give us a 5-star rating, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, support Creative Mamas Unplugged on Patreon to get your name in the credits, receive extra content, and earn some fun prizes. With this, we can keep creating, uplifting, and growing this incredible community together. We love you so much. Applause.
Be happy.
Be happy.
Be happy, Mom. Be happy, Mommy.
Come on, keep your chin up.
Enjoy this time.
Smile.
Smile, smile, my darling. Count your blessings.
Welcome to Creative Mamas Unplugged. We are your hosts. I'm Cherice Barton.
And I'm Shelly Hutchinson. Creative Mamas Unplugged is a podcast where we navigate the hell out of being a creative mom with humor and heart.
We will have honest conversations,
Hear wise words from fellow badass mamas,
and share hilarious stories around motherhood for some much-needed comic relief. Listen, motherhood is the most creative, most difficult job in the world. You are not alone, and you deserve to be happy.
This week, we sit down with the remarkable Lynzy Lab, a Texas-based dancer, choreographer, singer-songwriter, visual artist, and mother. In October of 2018, Lynzy's home video recording of her original song, A Scary Time for Boys, went viral with over 100 million views across YouTube and other social media platforms, landing her opportunities such as Jimmy Kimmel Live, the Makers Women Conference in Los Angeles, the Orange County Women's March, the TED Talk Women's Conference in Switzerland, and the International Women's Day celebration at South by Southwest. She was featured in InStyle magazine's Badass 50 issue alongside such notable women as Michelle Obama and Viola Davis. Her work has also been featured in many online publications, including Time Magazine, The Washington Post, Vanity Fair, Jezebel, and Oprah Magazine. A Scary Time for Boys was self-published with the help of Jody Gerson, CEO of Universal Music Publishing Group, and is now available on all major streaming platforms. In our conversation with Lynzy, she shares how becoming a mother reshaped her artistic voice and gave her a deeper sense of purpose. She opens up about how she allows creativity to flow naturally, acting on it when she can, and how that moment of viral fame shifted the course of her life. Her story is a powerful reminder of the strength found in vulnerability and the courage it takes to speak your truth through art. I just love her. We welcome here Lynzy Lab.
I've been dancing my whole life. Started dancing when I was 4. Parents put me in because my older cousins were doing it, so I had to do it, of course. And I remember my mom has told me, for the longest time that when I was 5, so like 1 year later, I was like, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a dancer. And I did, and I am. Since then, different tributaries led to different artistic endeavors. So started painting and have done, some songwriting and stuff like that. But mostly I would say dancer, choreographer at my core. And I don't know, motherhood to me was always this sort of abstract idea. I didn't know really for sure if I wanted to be a mom. I think I did, but then I also questioned that and how much of that is just like internalized, like the patriarchy telling me that that's something I have to do as a woman, and how much of that will interfere with my life and career as an artist. And so it was always like on the table, but not really something I was seriously considering until the pandemic, that pesky like year at home. And I feel like that sort of was a turning point for a lot of artists, a lot of women, especially dancers who are so reliant on their body as their instrument to feel fulfilled artistically. And we weren't necessarily certain we would be back on stage at any point. We didn't know, getting to do what I do, teaching right now. I'm also teaching at a university, and being able to do that from home was really nice and comforting. And I was like, I feel like I could just be home a lot. I could just, focus on myself and on my, people that I love and prioritizing that. Um, and and I don't know if I need to go out and do more things performance wise. And also, who says I can't? Who says I can't do both? And I think a lot of my friends, similar age group too, uh, in the arts, also got pregnant during the pandemic. And I was like, I feel like maybe we're all sort of thinking the same thing. And that was, this the baby boom, quote unquote, of our time. And so yes, I fell victim to the trend of having a baby during the pandemic, or getting pregnant during the pandemic. But I think it shifted my priorities a lot. It made me realize that I can still make art at home, and I can still, I don't know, that there's more to life than just this like idea of creating art, which I love to do. I love to do that. But it just gave me a little bit more time to reflect on things like having a child at some point, and I knew maybe I would adopt at some point, but I didn't know for sure if I wanted to have a child biologic, like create life in my body, um, until the pandemic. And now I'm like, I have like mommy amnesia, and I'm like, what was the actual moment where I was like, let's do this? Um, but yeah, something changed. I think that was like a make or break time for a lot of people, in a lot of different areas in their lives. So that was mine, I guess.
How has your creative life changed or been sort of altered or transformed by being a mom? Especially because you had your pregnancy and then you had Rocky, but then it was also during a time where there was silence and there was like serious downtime because of the pandemic. So with those two things, how did your art change? How did your creative life change? How did your approach change or alter because of those two factors happening at the same time?
Well, during the pandemic, we all, like, a lot of art just became something that we consumed digitally. Like, it was just, on our screens, on our phones. And so it was easy for me to be able to write something and then just post it, and which is really my main medium now anyway. But uh, and then having a child through that, well, it stifled my creativity, I think, a lot, just because when I got pregnant, my anxiety was like, okay, only focus on this one thing, only focus on growing a child, only, make sure that you're doing it right. And I was just researching nonstop. And I think my brain just sort of turned to mush. It was like in this, like, what's the chrysalis stage of, like, where your brain just turns to mush and then, like, hopefully changes into something beautiful later on. I'm still maybe waiting for that part to happen, but um and then of course you have the baby, and then that whole first year for me was like, now we just focus on creating this life outside of my body. And it did sort of put a lot of my creative endeavors on hold, which I was actually, there's the battle of, like, I should be doing this. I'm an artist, right? Aren't I still an artist if I'm not making art? I don't know. Am I a dancer if I'm not dancing on a stage? Am I a songwriter if I'm not currently writing songs? And so that part of my brain was like, what are we doing? This isn't right. And then the other part of me was like, hey, chill. Like, this is a very short blip in the grand scheme of things. And, like, everything is temporary, and this can be my purpose right now. It's okay. I am still those things, and maybe just focusing on one thing, focusing on being a vessel or being a mother, is okay at this point, because it's going to change. Your roles, your responsibilities change. Even as artists, right? Like, it changes. You start as a vessel for somebody else's voice, and then you find your own, and then you turn, like, I was mainly a dancer, and then I was like, hey, I could also create stuff and choreograph too. And so I'm used to having to sort of adapt. Motherhood was a mind, I was about
Oh,
to
we
say
cuss all the time on
mind
you.
fuck. Okay. That was like, something I've never experienced, obviously, before, to that magnitude. So that was wild. But then having to remind myself, this is okay. It's part of, you know, being an artist is having to adapt and having to go with the flow. And so let's give ourselves a little bit of grace here and just focus on being a mom, do that, and then we can start integrating some other like more personal artistic endeavors as we go, which I'm still trying to do, 3.5 years in, I'm still trying to do that, manage that better.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a lifelong journey, and all we can do is take it one day at a time because, every day is different with
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
And as an artist too. And I just love that you were self-aware enough to be able to take that breath and say, okay, this is temporary. This is okay. I can shift. I'm an artist. That's what we do. And
Yeah.
not get wrapped up into the spin out of overwhelm, which some, including myself, kind of found myself like, so I think that's really lovely. And I love that idea of, yeah, I'm still figuring it out because we all are, that's one of the things that motivated us to do this podcast, right? It was just kind
Yeah.
of like, okay. And our creative lives are not linear and they're not predictable. And we constantly have to shift because even, in the dance world, for example, our dance careers only last so long. And then we
Yeah.
have to reinvent and then we reinvent and reinvent, and discover
It's
along the way because, oh, okay, I'm a dancer. That means I become a choreographer or I am going to be a teacher. But what I discovered is, no, I don't really, I can expand much further than that. And I'm still doing that now. And my creativity can come out in so many ways, and bringing my children along with me for the ride has been a huge joy.
I'll look to you to see
Uh,
a glimpse into
I'm
my,
always here.
my
You
future,
can always
hopefully.
call. Yes, yes. I have another question for you. So you're an artist, you're a visual artist. I've seen your art. It's absolutely beautiful. And for listeners who are interested, we'll add your Instagram for the art. I think that's something that I've never pursued, but I'm always in admiration of.
Never too late,
Never too late. That's
as
true.
discussed just now.
Uh-huh. And then the songwriting really is, you have such a gift, and such a unique voice. And I think that sort of leads us to the question of, you're very passionate about your activism and you've found a vessel to be able to share that in such an impactful and simple way to so many through your songs. And what was the motivation for that? Or it's just something that was in you?
Um, I I don't I don't know. I mean, I used to always just like write before I learned how to play the ukulele, and I use that very loosely, learned how to play because I'm still like, I don't know what I'm
Are you
doing.
you're self-taught, right?
Yeah, and somebody will like reach out and be like, "What are the tabs for that song?" Or like, "What's the strumming pattern?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I'm so sorry. Um, so before I learned, quote unquote, learned how to play the ukulele, I would just like find a melody and then and like hum it and sing it and write lyrics and never did anything with that. Um, and and then when I picked up the ukulele, I was like, oh, I could actually like put some of these ideas into practice and like into, let them come to some type of fruition and maybe write a whole song, instead of just like a fragment of a chorus of a song that doesn't exist. And so I started there, um, and then right around the time that Trump's first term was about when I started really focusing on like my own choreography and like finding my own voice in that world. And and that's also about when I started playing the ukulele. And so I was like starting off with just these like I'm not going to put myself on the same level as Taylor Swift, but like those sort of like like love song type things or like quirky, cute, like little silly songs. And then I was like, but I also have all this rage inside of me. And I also have all these things that I want to say. And so I sort of started like letting those two worlds collide and would start just doing it as like a just like catharsis of like writing less silly songs and more like I don't know, guess getting back in touch with my punk rock roots and like writing songs about, social injustices and things like that. And so I guess that's how it started, is I just sort of was finding my artistic voice in other areas. And I was like, wait, I can also channel them in this arena too, in this like singer-songwriting thing that I'm very new at. And I just started doing that and kept doing it until I got a little bit better at it, I think. I don't know. Yeah, did that answer that question? I don't know.
No, it did. Well, the song of yours that went viral, Crazy Time for Boys, was so, I mean, it's such a good song. My
Thank you.
daughter was singing it last night, in the house. She was like humming it and singing it. It's, yeah. I loved playing it for her because it's a fun way to educate. And so after watching the song, we talked about it and talked about the motivation behind it and
Yeah.
why all of that was happening at that time. And so it's just like a really fun way. So I have to thank you for that.
Yeah.
But it was, you posted it and then just overnight it went viral, right? And that's
Yeah.
what the Jimmy Kimmel and like that must have been such a crazy ride.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I can't even, I still forget sometimes that that happened. And then something will come up or somebody will remind me of it. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that is something that happened. And that was wild. And I think maybe like part of it is me, uh, maybe like suppressing it because it was such a like my nervous system was just like shaken for, probably a year after. And good thing, obviously, really good things came from it. But it was very jarring. And yeah, I couldn't have possibly predicted the the impact it had and the shock waves that sort of came from it.
Is the goal, to have this happen again, not as a way to be front and center, but as a way to reach more people with the things that you have to say?
Um, yes and no. And yes and yes and no. I feel like it goes back and forth. There are definitely pros and cons. It was very intense what happened. I did find myself retreating. I did find myself forgetting to breathe, forgetting to eat. It was just so demanding of all of my time and energy, and just my resources were like feeling tapped. And there were also, some really beautiful things that, the opportunities that came from it and all of that. And the people that reached out saying really wonderful, like earth shattering and my earth shattering things like, hey, your song, I just heard it. I've been listening to it on repeat for the last 2 days, and I'm gonna quit my job because my boss has been sexually harassing me for the last 3 months, or whatever it is. Or, I've just am getting the courage to get out of a toxic relationship, or hey, I showed this song to my dad, and like we cried together, like things like that, where you're just like, I thank you for sharing that with me. And just knowing that I was able to have that positive impact in other people's lives, it was so rewarding, so like, I mean, and humbling, because I'm like, who am I to do, something like that? Um, and and then on the flip side of that coin, and so for that reason, yes, I would love to be able to do something that is consumed, on a massive scale, so that there are more conversations, that there is more dialogue like that happening, and that there are more people wanting or feeling empowered or emboldened to speak up and to like make a change in their life or in the lives of the people around them, or in the ripples that would come from that. And then the flip side of that coin is like I have to think about what my mental health was like during that time, which was very thumbs down.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I'm an anxious person in general, um, and uh, and I have very bad ADHD. It's like I have to like, it's hard for me to focus on more than one thing at a time. Like even this, I was so looking forward to having this moment with both of you. And like all day long, I've been like, okay, this is what I gotta do. And I gotta like, I have to breathe, I have to remember to like, so and and after the song came out, things like this were happening all the time. People wanted to reach out, people wanted to interview me, people wanted me to perform, people wanted me to do this, and it just felt like I was being sort of pulled in all of these different directions. Meanwhile, I still had a full-time, I mean, I was still teaching full-time, and like I still had bills to pay. I wasn't making money from any of the things that I was doing, which is obviously wasn't why I did it, but it was like so much of my life changed and so much of my life didn't change. And it was really hard for me to let those two worlds meld together in a way that was like calming for my nervous system. It just wasn't happening.
Wow, what a ride. That's so crazy. Because I was going to ask you, having people message you and say, like, influenced me so much and changed my perspective. And really, I mean, I think that being that kind of influencer has to be, one of the most rewarding experiences for work that you have put out there, that you have created from the ground up. But it's interesting how, at the same time, you are an artist. You are, a lot of times we want to be artists because we also want to be seen. Like when people say they want to be famous, it's because they really want to be seen. And I'm just curious, like, is there a part of you that wants to be seen in this way? But in the way that it presented itself like a tidal wave to you, is that the part that just felt so overwhelming? Because if it was like a slow burn where you felt like you could kind of like, not be in the spotlight, but have that kind of attention that wasn't just so quick and abrupt. And like you said, I mean, the fact that it took up so much of your time and so much of your life that you had to manage that. I'm just wondering if it was like a slower process, how that would feel for you, if that would make it if it would make it easier to process and make it more rewarding, a little more 360.
That's a great question. I've actually never considered that.
Mhm.
It's it's possible. It's
Mhm.
certainly possible. And even maybe just not the gradual like route that you're talking about, even if it was that like tidal wave of I'm gonna say quote unquote viral fame, even with a team of people helping me, I think, like that would have helped sort of.
Did you have a team or no?
No, it was me, and my husband would sometimes be like, get me by the shoulders and go, stop, breathe, or like, hey, take a shower. Something like that was like what I needed, sometimes. Or put your phone down. You don't have to answer that email right away. And I didn't have anything beyond that really to get me through that. So a team would have helped. And then, yeah, I think gradually for sure that would have maybe changed um, my opinion on how much I was willing to sort of invest in that. There were so many times that I would get an email and it would be like, hey, would you want to go on tour with so and so? And I was like, no.
Uh-huh.
And I could have, but I don't think I would have necessarily done well
Mhm.
mentally, but also just, with like, I mean, I had a full-time job. I had finally gotten full-time at Texas State where I teach now. And with viral fame, you have a shelf life, I don't know how, I didn't know if what I was doing was sustainable, and I wasn't willing to put all my eggs in that basket and then find out like, hey, you're yesterday's news, like nobody is
Mhm.
caring about that, or if I would even have more ideas, or things to contribute to that extent. So I think that was part of the reason why I sort of retreated, but also just because I don't like being front and center. Like I'll post something on Instagram and then somebody I know in real life will be like, "Hey, I saw that thing that you," and I'm like, "No, no, no, you didn't see it. No, I'm insecure." And then I want to
like,
like
wasn't me.
fade into the background and it wasn't me. And like
Yeah.
so I don't love like the I like to make stuff and then post it and then not think about it again. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Is that like a writer's perspective? You
I
know,
don't know.
like because you often see like teams of writers for like pop stars, right? And they're just kind of like creating and just spitting out this great stuff, and then they give it to the front man. Like, is that kind of like a writer's perspective? You know,
I
where
think
you,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it might be. I've always been a better writer than speaker. I have really bad like stage fright and social anxiety. So I feel like, which is part of the reason why I was like, oh no, I have to focus all day long on this thing that happens like 7 hours after I wake up. And so I think that being able to write it and then take as many like as many times as I need to film it and then to get it right and then post it and then I never have to like do that again. And
Mm,
then just the idea of like having to do something live is like ah!
yeah.
Um, so I think that's part of it too, was like that maybe isn't what I'm not really cut out for that part of
Mm, hmm.
I don't my artistic expression is maybe limited to like
Great journey figuring that out.
oh,
I mean, that's fascinating.
You're so good at it. And you're a beautiful dancer and you're a really good mom.
thank you.
Rocket's very lucky to have you.
I love that name. What inspired the name?
Well, my husband always loved the name Rocky. I know people named Rocky, have known people named Rocky, and there's the movie, the movie friend. So I was like,
Better.
okay, Rocky,
Much
it's
better.
a cute name, but I don't know if I would like want to name my kid that necessarily, but I don't dislike it. And I don't know, it's kind of polarizing. Like the name Rocky is sort of like everybody has their idea of like what that um for most people it's the movie, I think. So
That it's an awesome name, and that's,
it's a
yes,
great
and it's
name. Yeah,
awesome.
for sure. But I was like, okay, well, I'm willing to make Rocky his nickname if we can like have something else as like his name. And so we went through this like long list of like possibilities. We were like Rockwell, and we were like, that sounds a little too like above our pay grade. And then we were like, we were like Rockton, and I was like, no, Rockley, no, that sounds like broccoli. So like there were all these like iterations of the name that we were like thinking about and tossing around. And then I don't rem- I think one day I was like, what about Rocket? Neil's sister is a space geologist. She like her boss was Bill Nye, the science guy for a long time. And she's like written books about Mars rover, like and Curiosity and like all she's just a genius. And so space is like a theme that sort of
Uh,
like resonates with us. Um, and Rocket just sounds like I don't know, a kid named Rocket. Come on, how cute.
fun. Amazing.
Um, and then we also wanted something non-gendered. We wanted something that, could be a name for anyone. And then we were like, well, that does kind of have a masculine ring to it. So let's make sure that his middle name is something a little like softer and a little more like um earthy or something that just feels a little, yeah, I guess round those edges a little bit. And so we were like, well, what if we named him after like a feminist, like a strong feminist icon? And we were like, oh yeah, that's a great, yeah, let's do that. And so we went through another long list of possibilities and we landed on Holiday. Um, after Billie Holiday, who's one of my, just obviously perfection. Um, and uh, and and then his birthday is December 3rd, so it's like sort of in the middle of all these holidays. And it also is like a holiday is something you think about as like fun and brings you joy and it's something you celebrate. So Rocket Holiday was
Phenomenal name. Sounds like a star already.
yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. You got
No
this, kid.
pressure. No pressure. I had a question for you going back to, this sort of impact that you made and the followers that you've gained and the people that still follow you and are inspired by you. But it's quite a significant following that you have, and you choose to share your personal life and rock it on there. And I'm always like, because some people are very much, I'm going to separate the two. Whereas for me, I always thought, but I'm not going to present myself as anyone else than I am. We just interviewed Arthur, and he and his husband, Brian, have massive following. They post their family life and their work life, and they're very, very, very much in the public eye. Like, they're in Ireland, so they walk outside and people always want to take photos, and they know the names of their daughters. However, his thing is, I live my life unapologetically, and I am a happy person. He's choosing the route of, I'm going to be me. And if it inspires others, great. If there's haters, I don't care. A question for you is there fear involved? Because you are an activist and because you are speaking out, do you ever feel nervous do you get hate mail, or just those people aren't following you?
Every once in a while, things will trickle in, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that there are people out there that make that's a thing that they do. Um, uh, that they're so scared, that they or angry or hurt or whatever it is that is prompting them to say these words to someone they don't know about something that, may or may not resonate with them in a healthy way or in a way that they're able or ready to process in a healthy way. And I would say at the beginning, tons of hate mail, like 2018, rewind 7 years ago, all the time, every day, just an onslaught of like death threats, even um, rape threat, like just really terrible things. I was supposed to perform at the Women's March in Orange County and had to end up canceling that, doing it via live stream from my house because of threats about if I go there, they're gonna whatever. So that was something where I was like really battling, like, well, do I let the terrorists win, quote unquote, and stay home and retreat and don't do it, or do I go and I'm like standing proud in that, but also like don't die, like so. That was something early on that I had to, and teaching at a public university, where anyone can pull up my schedule and know what room I'm in at what time, was really scary for me. Again, another reason why I was like, maybe this isn't the life that I want to have, doing this all the time. And now it happens much less often. It's very infrequent, that sort of thing. But I definitely have songs I've written that I haven't posted because they are like maybe a touch too controversial, um, to put out into the world, knowing that there are people who know what my son's face looks like, that there might be somebody who, the wrong person, um, sees it and feels the need to retaliate in some way, and they have so like this much information about me and where I am, and what my kid's name is. So things like that definitely I have to think about now, as a mom. What I'm most worried about as a mom posting things on, social media is like making sure that I'm not overdoing it and making it like people can do what they want to do with their kids. Like that's their choice. For me, I'm not going to like stage content, that sort of thing, or or use him to like get likes and stuff like that. I will post glimpses of my life, of holidays, or funny things that he says and comes up with on his own. And as he gets older, I'll probably, or definitely will like get more of his input. But even now I'm asking him, he's 3.5, and I'm like, is it okay if I post this? And he'll say yes, or he'll say no, and I'll post it or I won't. And so I'm really hoping as he gets older, we're able to like figure out the right balance. And if he decides I don't ever want my face on your Instagram page ever again, then that's an easy thing for me to do, is to just not include him. For now, like you said, I it's my life, and being a mother is something I'm very proud of. It's like the greatest thing I've ever done. And I tell him that all the time too. I'm like, I'm like, being your mom is my favorite role, favorite thing I've ever done. And so I do want to include him.
Creative Mamas Unplugged is produced by Breatheasy Productions with music by Jeremy Jurin. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to give my mama 5 stars and keep coming back. Thanks to us kids, there are plenty of stories to tell. And you are not alone. Bye for now.